For Razorback fans, Arkansas will be playing two teams that went on SEC Media Days in day one. It is LSU as well as Ole Miss. What will these teams and these matchups look like? Well, let's talk about it on today's episode of the Locked On Razorbacks podcast.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I am your host, John Nabors. I'm also the host of the John Nabors Show, which you can start to catch up on each and every weekday afternoon. And we have a lot to talk about here today on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast because we are live from SEC Media Days here in Dallas in the Big D. And we want to remind everybody that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more because as playoffs wind down, the sports stop sporting like we want them to. But this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everybody, every day, all summer long. So visit FanDuel.com to get started. Otherwise, having a wonderful Wednesday. Arkansas Day for the SEC Media Days will not be happening until Thursday. So be on the lookout for that one as we will have some fun in discussing that and hopefully get to hear a little bit from Sam Pittman, Landon Jackson, Andrew Armstrong, as well as Taylon Green. But since, there's not a whole lot going on with Arkansas specifically in these days that we've been having at SEC Media Days, I think it's been pretty interesting just to see from the perspective of a lot of the teams that have gone so far, which there's been some other teams that have gone. But, the specific ones I wanted to get into, at least from this past week and happening on Monday, was about LSU and Ole Miss. Because I talked to some people from Ole Miss. I talked to some people from LSU. And it's amazing to me how this game is viewed by the opposition, about the opposing media, or even people that are fans of said teams or whatever it may be. Now, what I mean by that is, like, Arkansas and LSU battle for the Golden Boot. It's been somewhat of a rivalry. Let's just be honest about it. It's been somewhat of a rivalry. It's not the greatest rivalry or anything, but it's been that. And even though LSU has beaten Arkansas more often than not, at least over the past decade, there's still been some pretty epic matchups that Arkansas is able to take care of business. And the fact that the past four matchups, past four games between these two teams have ended with a margin of victory of 3 points, it's pretty impressive. And so we'll start with LSU, and then we'll move to Ole Miss because there's another reason why those get a little bit more insane too. So in this particular game between Arkansas and LSU, it's stemmed back for, what was it, probably about from I wouldn't say that, for probably like 2001 to like 2006, 7, somewhere in there. There were so many occasions in that stretch where Arkansas and LSU, whoever won that game in the final game of the season, won the SEC West. Like, that was an actual thing. It's hard to believe. It's hard to remember that it was actually a true thing. But, yes, that was the case. It was that close. It was that epic. And Arkansas didn't win all the games all the time. But, Miracle on Markham was a big one. Some of the performances by Matt Jones, of course, Darren McFadden, and everything. Like, that was a great, great stretch there. And then even since then, there's been this up and down all around thing where even when Les Miles was at LSU, Arkansas was able to win. Even in the games they didn't win, it was really close when it shouldn't have been. Like, for instance, we remember the Miracle on Markham Part 2 in 2008. Arkansas going down to Baton Rouge in 2009, going to overtime. Arkansas felt like they were in a great position to win that game, but they missed a kick. 2010, going to the Sugar Bowl, Arkansas won. 2011, Arkansas got blown out, but in the beginning it started something. Arkansas barely lost in 2012 in the John L. Smith year. Same thing in 2013. Arkansas won in 2014, 17-0. They won against LSU in 2015 down in Baton Rouge and cleared out the stadium. And they just kind of, I don't know, Ed Orgeron actually owned Arkansas. He only lost once to the Razorbacks, and that was actually the year that he was fired. So leading up to that point and starting also at that point, it's been 3-point deficits. It's been 3-point margins of victory. And in 2022, that was Brian Kelly's first year at LSU. That game was disgusting. I was talking to actual Caroline Fenton, who used to do Locked on LSU, about it. Like, that game was in Fayetteville, and it was a final score of 13-10. Malik Hornsby was the starting quarterback because KJ Jefferson was hurt. Harold Perkins, I think, had 8 sacks or maybe 18 sacks, whatever it was. It was a lot of sacks. But just a weird game. It was a cold one in Fayetteville, but it was a 13-10 final score. LSU wins. And then even last year, Arkansas goes down to Baton Rouge, and I remember going into that game, I didn't think there was any chance Arkansas was going to win. They were just too good there. LSU was way too good, and Arkansas was not good at all. But Arkansas actually had probably their best offensive performance in that game. KJ Jefferson played really well, and Luke Hasz, the true freshman, really had his coming out party. I think he had 140 yards receiving, something crazy like that. And it was tied. It was back and forth. Arkansas had some pretty significant plays, but LSU hit a game-winning field goal at the end to win it. And so it's just showing you how close this game is and has been. So I don't look at it in any sort of negative way or any sort of like, Arkansas just has no chance in this one. Like, think about it with this season. Arkansas is going to be playing LSU on October 19th. It's about the midway point of the year, and they're going to be playing them in Fayetteville. It's going to be more than likely a night game. And then you're coming off of a bye week. That's massive. That's huge. And so am I going to predict right now Arkansas winning this game against LSU? No, I'm not. But do I see it being a close game? Absolutely. Do I see it being a game that is either frustrating for Razorback fans or a back and forth or either way? Yeah, I do see that. And who knows? Maybe if even something changes, like, people keep bringing up, Pittman gets fired and they bring in Petrino. Well, if they were going to do that, that would be the game because of the bye week. But I think it can be only helpful for Arkansas. Their first 6 games, they play 6 games and then they go into the bye week. If Arkansas can be, if they can be 4-2, which that'd be huge. But if they could be 4-2 heading into that LSU game, it's going to be fun and it's exciting. If they're 3-3, it'll be okay. But anything less than that could be a dangerous scenario for Arkansas. But still, I like the matchup. I think it's going to be a close game no matter what. And then, of course, the Ole Miss game, which Lane Kiffin went up, and Lane Kiffin's done a phenomenal job. I used to be someone that wasn't sure about Lane Kiffin and coming into the SEC. But the man won 10 games in the regular season last year, 8 games before that, and 10 games before that. Like, since the COVID season happened, he's gone 10-2, 8-4, 10-2. Who wouldn't sign up for that? Like, that's incredible. And he's done an incredible job, and he's going to be salty this year. This team is not only returning a lot of key starters and key players, but they're also adding transfer portal players that have been really good and are going to continue to be really good. So I see that being the case this year for them, too. Like, I see them being good once again. But as I've mentioned before, that Arkansas-Ole Miss game each and every year is so weird. It's weird every single time. Because since Lane Kiffin's been there, Arkansas won, of course, in 2020 in Fayetteville, where Matt Corral threw 6 interceptions. Arkansas still probably should have won more than what they did if they picked off a guy 6 times. But the Hudson Clark no-fly zone, the 3 interceptions in that one was incredible. And 2 pick sixes. In fact, Jalen Catalon had one, and Grant Morgan had the one that sealed the game. So, yeah, that game happened. And then in 2021, Arkansas went to Oxford and was a 2-point conversion away from winning. Ole Miss was an incredible team. They were 10-2 that year. Incredible. And I still fully support and believed in the situation and in the decision for Sam Pittman to go for 2 to win the game. It just didn't happen. And then 2022, the only game Arkansas actually ended up blowing out the opposing team was actually the game against Ole Miss at home. Don't know why. But Arkansas was up 42-7 after the first play in the third quarter. It was just an onslaught. And then last year in Oxford, Arkansas lost, but it may have been Arkansas's best defensive performance of the year against Ole Miss's offense that was just salty and incredible. And Arkansas lost 27-20. So think about that. Every game that Arkansas and Ole Miss have played against each other, or in this particular case, Sam Pittman and Lane Kiffin have played against each other, Arkansas is either won fairly convincing or they lost by 1 single possession. Arkansas has won every game at home. Ole Miss has won every game at their place. So for this upcoming season, to think about what that game could be and what that could look like, why wouldn't it be the same as what we've seen? Why wouldn't it be insane? Why wouldn't it be wild? Why wouldn't it be crazy? Why wouldn't we be seeing like, oh my gosh, what's going to be the next thing that happens in this one? We've seen 7 overtime games. We've seen the Hunter Henry heave. We've seen, the game against with Chad Kelly in 2016 in Fayetteville. We've seen the epic comeback in 2017 down there in Oxford against Matt Luke's team. We've seen so much insanity between Arkansas and Ole Miss. I don't think that's changing. And that kind of comes to my point about Arkansas, LSU, and Arkansas and Ole Miss. Those 2 games, those 2 matchups. Talk about rivalries. I don't care about that. What I do care about is that those games every year, I never know what to expect. I never know what's going to happen. It could go really well for Arkansas or it could go badly. I feel like at some point in time, like the Arkansas Ole Miss game may end in a game-winning safety. Like, it wouldn't surprise me at all. Then, like, Arkansas and LSU could end in, like a game that ends like Mississippi State, Arkansas this past year, 7-3. Like, you just never know what to expect. But that's a great thing because those are not anymore the SEC West opponents, but those are big opponents that you're going to be facing at home this year. And I think that I've said this before, if you can just win 2 games at home in the SEC, you have 4. Tennessee, LSU, Ole Miss, Texas. All right? Texas is going to be the most difficult one, no question about it. After that, I think it'll probably be Ole Miss, then LSU, then Tennessee, but all of them are going to be really good. If you can win 2 of those, it'll be great. And if you could do it against Ole Miss and LSU, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised by it. Given the circumstances, given the way that things are going, would not be surprised by it whatsoever. It's going to be great. I can't wait for it to happen. And we're going to talk a little bit of baseball, too, some Razorbacks in the draft coming up next. So stay with us here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. All right, folks, I love sports. I love them so much, and I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games, and the sports just aren't sportsing like we want them to or like we got used to them doing. So FanDuel, though, they let me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up any bets anytime that I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up with all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everybody, every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. It's FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. All right, so moving on into the next segment of the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I want to give a big congratulations to some of the Razorbacks that have been drafted into Major League Baseball drafts. Some of them aren't surprising. Don't know the exact decisions of some of them and what they're going to be doing. But as we talked about a little bit with Hagen Smith, everyone knew that he was going to be the number 1 Razorback taken. He was drafted number 5 overall to the Chicago White Sox. And he is actually the 10th Razorback to be chosen in the first round and the highest drafted pitcher in program history, which is kind of wild to think about because, Arkansas's had a lot of great players. And, Major League Baseball has been around a long time, and Razorback Baseball has been around a long time. And to think about some of the great pitchers that came through Arkansas, Hagen Smith, which is deservingly so, but Hagen Smith being the highest draft pick is awesome. And, some of the great pitchers and great players that Arkansas had going to the majors weren't necessarily like legendary players in college. Like Cliff Lee, for instance. Solid, but he ends up being arguably the best Razorback pitcher, maybe even player in the majors in a long time. Andrew Benintendi was great. He got drafted high, but when we're talking about pitchers, think about Dallas Keuchel. He's drafted fairly high, but I don't think anybody would have saw him be a Cy Young winner. So sometimes it's just a crapshoot, but Hagen Smith backed it up. Like, he has all the stuff, and there's a reason why that he got drafted 5th overall. They love what he's been able to do in his development. They love the type of command that he has, his fastball, his velocity, his curveball. They see the potential there, and like I said, I could not be happier for Hagen. Hagen's a good dude. He's been a great Razorback, and I'm going to be honest about this, folks. He and other people, that they were getting come after by other schools to get into the transfer portal. Like, baseball is maybe one of the biggest culprits of that, but Hagen stuck with it. Hagen stuck with Arkansas, gave it his all, gave it his best, and I still won't forget that 17 strikeout game. That was awesome. So kudos to him. Now, on top of that, Peyton Stovall, my guy Stovey, the next Razorback taken in the MLB draft, as he was drafted by the Cincinnati Reds. He was drafted in the 4th round, 117th pick overall. So, I can't tell you how happy I am for him and for his family. I know that people have heard me mention that I've had a good relationship and with a lot of not only the players but the players' families and everything. And I just cannot speak highly enough about Peyton Stovall. He's just been a great representative of Arkansas. He didn't have to come to Arkansas. He could have gone to the majors, but he wanted to play college ball. He wanted to play for the Razorbacks. He dealt with a lot of injury, but you could really tell once he got healthy, the way that he could really get around the bat. And, I think that some things kind of held him back at Arkansas, just to be honest. Let you take your own considerations from that. But I love the kid, and I wish him literally nothing but the best. It was so cool to see his journey and for him to be the player he was. It's unfortunate, though, that he only got to go to one World Series in his freshman year, but he was so pivotal in that part. And, again, can't say enough of things about Peyton Stovall. But you also had Mason Molina drafted by the Brewers in the 7th round. You had Jared Sprague-Lott JSL, drafted by the Oakland Athletics in the 9th round. You had Hudson White, drafted in the 9th round to the Red Sox. You had Bing McLaughlin, drafted by the Arizona Diamondbacks in the 9th round. So, just kind of kept on there through the day 2 of the MLB draft. Love to see that. And it's going to be interesting to see, what these players are going to end up signing for, or if there's any consideration. Like, for instance, Hudson White could technically come back for another year. Like, he could play baseball for the Razorbacks for another year if he wanted to. I'm not saying he will. I'm not saying he does, but he at least has that option. I know Molina's moving on for sure. And Sprague Lott will be an interesting thing, too, and to see what he ends up doing. But, that's what's crazy right now, of just all the stuff that happens with Major League Baseball and knowing, the leverage that you have, or knowing that the things you're going to have to go up against and whether or not it works, whether or not it doesn't, whether you want it to or not. Like, all that stuff is just going to be really fascinating to see how it plays out. But I'm really excited about seeing all these guys in it. I'm really excited to see all of them playing in it. And I can't wait to see what these guys can show in the majors, especially the time that they're at the Razorbacks. Now, here's the thing, too, real quick before we move on. There was a lot of criticism that went the way of the Razorback baseball team over not only last year but the year before. And I understand it. I understand that there was, the situation where you felt this past year especially. Like, the year before, still a bummer. You were the number 3 overall seed. You won the SEC, or tied for the SEC, but you won the West. Number 3 national overall seed. You just ran into a buzzsaw at TCU. You dealt with injuries all year long. You lost your ace pitcher. Like, it didn't feel good. You didn't like it, but you could accept it. But this past year was the one that hurt the most because you did not have injuries. You did. Let me rephrase it. You didn't have the significant, losing your lineup type of injuries. You had arguably the best pitcher in the game in Hagen Smith as your ace. You had a pretty solid amount of guys backing him up and being in the depth. You had it. You won the SEC West again. You won 20 SEC games. You were the number 5 seed overall. And you followed that up with going 1-2 in the tournament, in the regional, at home. Getting dusted again. Can't happen again. But remember, folks, that is something that, these Razorbacks, they're going to be Razorbacks forever. And you got to thank them for what they did. It wasn't great. I get it. They were bummed. They didn't want to go out like that. But you just got to give a lot of love to them. And, putting on their uniform and giving it their all and doing it in a way that was significant. And who knows? Maybe some of them come back. But if they're moving on, then just got to tip your cap to them and wish them nothing but the best of luck, because they're going to have a lot of great things in front of them in the Major League Baseball side of things. All right, we're going to talk a little bit about the college football video game. We got to here in a second here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. All right, so final segment here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. So, college football video game, folks, from EA Sports. I'm here at SEC Media Days. If you follow me on social media, you saw that I brought the game, brought the TV, brought the whole thing, and it's pretty cool. It's just a setup where I was I got the pre-order, so I wanted to get it early anyways, but saw this, and I was like, okay, well, might as well set the TV up and see how it goes. Well, it's been a hit. Again, nobody wants to come over to my table because of how cool I am or, my great sports takes and my content, but hey, we'll come over for college football. So, but it's been cool to kind of, I haven't played it a whole lot. I've played it just a little bit. I haven't played it a whole lot. But I'm going to give you my assessment just real quick on it for those of you who are either considering buying it or already bought it or whatever. You knew and you know that I was very cautiously, even pessimistic maybe, about this game when it was announced. Because EA Sports has not done a good job, in my opinion, of sports games in a long time, specifically football. And I'm talking about Madden. Madden has not been good in a long time. I think the last Madden game I played was maybe 2018, 2019. No, it was 2021, actually, was the last one I played. And it just was not good. I did not like it. It just felt like it was the regurgitated crap and pay for play and, these Madden Ultimate teams that made you buy all this stuff. And it's like, no, I just want to play football. I want to have great presentations to make me feel like I'm really in the game and really playing football. And they failed at it. And so I just stopped. I stopped playing it. I stopped even thinking about buying it. And so when they announced that they were going to be coming out with NCAA football because of NIL and everything, I was like, oh, gosh, well, okay. But I don't think it's going to be very good because of the fact that they are going to be probably making it terrible. Because if it's anything like Madden, it's going to be bad. But then I start seeing more and more trailers coming out. I start seeing more and more of it coming out. And I was like, okay. So how's this going to look? How's this going to go? Could this be something that actually looks as good as what it does on TV and on the trailers? And I'm like, okay. And then they had the gameplay trailer and the training trailer. They had all of that. So I'm like, I'm going to give this one a shot. So I got it. And will admit, I have not played it a lot in depth because I just, I'm in here media days and still a lot of stuff that's going to get worked out. A lot of the kinks are going to get worked out and all that. But let me tell you this, folks. If you're considering buying it or if you're, on the fence about it, just in the times that I've played, it is awesome. It's awesome. And I am so happy I'm wrong about it. What they did to the game, for the presentation, for the excitement, for the layout, for everything is amazing. It is exactly what it needed to be. I mean, sure, it's never going to be perfect because you're always going to think about things, but they'll fix it and they'll update it. But overall, folks, I could not be more thrilled with the process of the game. The atmosphere, the graphics. Like, there's so many people that were here at media days that were walking by. They're like, I thought you were playing highlights of real games. No, it's just the game itself. It's that great of graphics. The graphics are incredible. The gameplay itself is incredible. The presentation, the traditions that they have, like when you're Arkansas and running out through the A, people calling the Hogs, in the stadium, and it's just you can tell they put in a lot of love and work into this game, and I'm appreciative of it because that was my biggest concern about it all is that they just weren't going to put in the love. They're just going to make a cash cow, quick, get it out production and see how it goes. No, they put in the work. They did the things that the most important things they did for the video game fans of this franchise that watched it and played it for so long. They did that, and I got to give them credit. Got to give credit where credit is due. I'm so happy I was wrong about it. So again, if you're on the fence, if you're considering it, about buying this, do it. Does that mean that you need to buy a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox Series S or whatever they're called to do that? Yes, I would. Just because I love it, and it's nostalgic, and it's something that if you have kids now, something you can play with your kids, and it's fun, and that's how you learn about football. You learn about players' names, seeing their names and their images and everything going along with it is really cool too. Like, it's just so well put together, and they did a great job with it. So kudos to them. I love it. Can't wait to see more of it. Can't wait to keep playing it. But if you're on the fence thinking about it, get off the fence and go and buy it because it's definitely going to be worth it. Appreciate everybody listening in to Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or on Google Play. You can also get after me on Twitter at John Nabors Show for any questions, comments, concerns that you may have. We'll keep it going from there. Same podcast time, same podcast channel tomorrow afternoon. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you then.